Okay, we're still in our game state transitions program, and what I want to do is I want to look at a way to another approach to solving the problem here. If you look at this first if statement here where we check to see if it's time to go to state number 2, there's two ways that can happen. Either they have pushed the start button on this tick of the clock and it was not pressed on the previous tick of the clock, or the enter key is down on this tick of the clock and it was up on the previous tick of the clock. Okay, so if this happens, then I go to state 2, or if this happens, I go to state 2. Okay, now we know that the AND in an if statement means both, or in a Boolean expression that's contained in an if statement means both. So if both of these are true, then this statement here will get executed. If both of these are true, this and this, then this statement will get executed. Okay, and another way of saying that is if both of these are true, or if both of these are true, then we want to go to game state 2. So another way to write this is to write it as one big condition, and you got to be kind of careful when you start doing stuff like this because it can get kind of a little bit complicated with compound conditions. But or, okay, so this right here gets matched up with this. So this opens the condition, this closes the condition. And so what I'm saying is if this is true and this is true, or this is true and this is true, then I want to go to game state number 2. And if I do that, then all I need is to have, you know, one statement here where I go to game state number 2. Now, when you start having compound conditions here, if you've only got two of them, it's not a big deal. You know, and means both and or means either. But what happens when you start mixing ands and ors together in a compound condition that has more than two simple conditions put together? And the rule is simple. The rule is that ands have a higher priority than ors. Just like when you're doing arithmetic, multiplication, division have a higher priority than addition and subtraction. So we do the ands first. So that means when you're evaluating this, you do this and you come up with a value of true or false. Okay, and you do this and you come up with a value of true or false. And then you take whatever the first result of this and condition was, and you OR it with whatever the result of this condition was. And because we're doing, you know, either the button on the gamepad or the key on the keyboard, the odds of both of these happening on the same tick of the clock are pretty slim. You'd have to have pretty good reflexes to get them both on the same tick of the clock, and I don't know anybody would do both of them at the same time anyway. So you're going to be doing one or the other. So odds are that this will be true and this will be false. And if we have something true ORed with something false, the result is true. Or if they went the keyboard route, then this will be true and this will be false. And if we have something true that's ORed with something false, the result is true. Okay. Now I suppose it's possible that they could, you know, if they managed to hit both of them on the same tick of the clock, that both of them could be true at the same time, in which case, you know, everything works out fine as well. But the important thing to know here is that when you start combining these, the ands get done first. So you evaluate the and, you come up with a value of true or false. You evaluate the other and, you come up with a value of true or false, and then you take the results of those and you OR them together. Okay, so if that happens, then I want to go to game state number 2. And now, since I've only got one statement where I'm going to game state number 2, I can probably group all of this stuff together and just do it once. So I go to game state 2, I set the background color to green, I set the game color or the title to state 2, and I've shortened that code up considerably. Now I made it a little bit more complicated by putting an if statement here that has 4 Boolean expressions that are being ANDed and ORed together. If you're ever unsure about how they're going to be executed, you can always you know, make sure that the AND gets done first by, I'm just doing a little space here to make sure that it's obvious. Okay, so this, and it does match these up. You see how this one turns gray. So this and this match up, so I'm enclosing these two conditions that are ANDed together. And when I go up here and I pick this one, the one that it matches up with is this one, so I'm doing those first. And then I take the result and I'm going to OR them together. And this is the one that marks the beginning and the end of the condition for the if statement. Okay, so whereas I used to have something that was about this long, now I've got something that's quite a bit shorter. And I can take the exact same code here now, and let's see, let's do a Control C. Got to be careful on this stuff. And I want to change this. I'm going to replace it down here. Okay, if I'm in game state 2, and this stuff doesn't need to be changed because that's just checking the state of the keyboard or the gamepad. But I'm going to go state 3. State 3 is blue. Okay, and then I can take this stuff down here again. And so if I'm in state 3 and they either press the start button or the enter key, then I want to go to state 4. And now this code is exactly equivalent to what I had before. Now if we run it, it should start out in state 1. And if I press the enter key, it goes to state 2. Now I'm going to press the start button, should go to state 3. And I'm going to press the enter key one more time, and I go to state 4. So in general, you're going to have this nested if structure where the first if is going to be if you're in state 1 or whatever that your first state is, splash screen or whatever, and then an else if that checks for a transition, see if you're in another state and you want to transition out of it, and then an else if, and so on for all of the states in your game. And then in here you look for the condition that causes that transition from one state to the next. In this case it's just keyboards. Now it could be something else like a score counting down to 0 or a timer counting down to 0 or whatever. And in that case you'll have to modify your if statement accordingly. And then make sure that if there's any initialization that needs to be done, stuff that only has to happen before you enter that state, put that code here so it only gets executed once. And once you've got that figured out, you can write the code for transitioning from one game state to another for any game that I can throw at you. And that's it.